Okay, perfect. For the third talk of the day, we have Master in Science, Jose Alfredo Hernandez. Yes, he is the creator of Reptiles and Amphibians of African Safari from Puebla. And from June 2012 to today, he's the president and founder of the non-government organization Conservation of Amphibians. He's a graduate of the biology degree from the Universidad de las Américas Puebla, or Puebla. He studied his master's degree in biological science with an in-depth study of evolution ecologies at the Universidad de Los Angeles, based in Bogotá, Colombia. In African Safari, he's in charge of the collection of reptiles, amphibians, and arachnids. He also directs the Amphibian conservation program, working with two critical and endangered species, the crested toad and the Alfredo exodus. In 2016, he obtained the Future Leaders for Amphibian Conservation Award by the Amphibian Survival Alliance. And in 2017, he won the award from Volkswagen for Amor Mexico program. He's affiliated with the Edge of the System program of the Zoological Society of London since 2015. And in 2020, he founded the Civil Association Amphibian Conservation, through which he established a private reserve called Bosque de la Niebla Amphibian Sanctuary in Quetzalan, Puebla, to protect the population of Quetzalan salamander with nations from the world land first. With very elevating with the doctor and good luck.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to talk about a little bit what I do with the group of animals that I love the most, which are amphibians. I'm going to talk about three particular species, which are the Taylor salamander, or the axolotl of Alchichica, the large crested toad, and Quetzalan salamander. Next, please. We're going to start talking about the crested toad. Next one, please. Well, why amphibians? Amphibians are the most endangered group of vertebrates in the world. Almost half of the total species of amphibians in the world are in any category of threat, according to the IUCN. So Mexico is the fifth country with the greatest number of amphibian species. We have 392 species. From those, 211, so 55% are under any category of threat. However, the non-059, which is the law that categorizes the endangered species in Mexico, only consider 47 species of amphibians as threatened, and only the axolotl or Mexican axolotl or axolotl of Xochimilco is considered a priority species. Next one, please. In the state of Puebla, where I live, where I work, we have 82 species of amphibians, from which 32 are under any category of threat. We work with these three species. The Quetzalan salamander and the large crested toad are endemic to the north part of the state of Puebla, or native to the north part of the North Sierra of Puebla. The salamander is endemic. The crested toad is distributed also in Veracruz in some localities. And the axolotl of Alchichica, which is endemic to a single lake, which is located here in the eastern part of Puebla, in the border between Puebla and Veracruz. Next one, please. So this is the original distribution of the large crested toad, all the yellow spots. However, this species was considered to be extinct by the end of the 20th century. And in the 2000 year, it was rediscovered here in Quetzalan, Puebla, in a single locality called Xocoyola, which is the place where we work now, and is the current largest population of the species. Next one, please. The habitat of this species is the cloud forest, which is also the most threatened terrestrial ecosystem in Mexico. The cloud forest has been transformed in coffee plantations or livestock grasslands in Puebla, Veracruz, and the whole country. And they use this river as a breeding site. This is called the Apulco River. So they depend on the conditions of the river. The river must be completely clean so the toads can breathe here. Next one, please. Opposite to most amphibians, this species breeds during the dry season. Why? Because the river drops its level and it allows the formation of small ponds where they lay their eggs. It's not very easy to see, but you can see some white spots here and some lines here, which are the toad eggs. And these are the tadpoles. The tadpoles feed on algae that grows on the rocks. Next one, please. So we started a captive breeding program for this species in order to increase the population size, or the wild population size. We started with a small number of 16 adults. When we collected them, we made a census. We only counted 28 males and 44 females, which is a very small number. There is a disease which is affecting amphibian population, which is chytrid fungus. And we took some samples to see if the disease was present in the locality. Luckily, it was not. Next one, please. So these are some images of our captive breeding program. We developed some enclosures with a terrestrial and aquatic part. And we achieved the first breeding event in 2012, 3 years after collecting the adults. You can see the eggs here, these black spots also here. So the fact that having them in captivity allows us to observe many interesting facts about their biology. For example, the oviposition time is around 6 hours, the clutch size between 300 and 1,000 eggs, the hatching time, which is very fast, 4 days, the duration of metamorphosis that goes between 39 and 160 days, and the success of metamorphosis, which is almost 70%. Next one, please. So this is how we rear the tadpoles. We use small plastic boxes that you usually put hamburgers inside. They are very helpful to rear the baby toads. We put between 2 and 4 toads inside each box with gravel and leaf litter as substrates. We feed them on fruit flies and crickets. We control the temperature between 18 and 24 degrees. And we provide them with UV light because they need UV light to fix calcium in their bones. So it's necessary to correct growing for them. Next one, please. So we took some data about the size of the tadpole and how they grow daily between the day when they hatch and the day when they started metamorphosis. So the tadpole reaches around 2.5 centimeters. And when they start transforming at the 39 or 40 days, they completely lose the tail. And the toadlet size is about 1 centimeter. They are very small. And you can also see the development of the tadpoles inside the eggs. Since the eggs are translucent, it's very easy to see how they start developing. It's very interesting. Next one, please. So we decided to start releasing the toads that we have reared in captivity. We had 6 release events for a total of around 1,200 toads. In collaboration with the community, we invited local children from the school, so they were able to release their own toads. This was intended to change their perception about the toads because they didn't like the toads at the beginning. They usually killed them. But after we went and we invited them to release the toad and we did some education activities, they started liking the toads. That was the main idea of this. Next one, please. So the hardest part of all this work is the monitoring of the species because they are very difficult to find. They are always hiding in the forest and they only come out to the river to breed. during about 10 days per year, which are between October and November when the rain stops. So we started doing the monitoring in those 2013. We only found 8 toads. The good news was that we found one of the group that we released. We released him weighing half a gram, and we found them weighing 14 grams 3 months later. So that was a very good sign that they were able to adapt to the wild conditions, survive, and grow. So after that, we spent 3 more years without finding any released toad. Until 2016, we found only 22 wild toads and 1 released. In 2017, it was much better. We found 180 and 2 released. And in 2021 was our best record. We found 341 wild toads and 2 released ones. So we have seen the population grow and the toads that are doing really good. So we have stopped releasing them. We're only doing the monitoring of the population. Last year was not really good because we only found 28 toads, but the weather conditions were very strange. They really depend on the weather conditions. In 2022, the weather was very dry. The river was with a very low level. So the ponds were not ideal for them to breed. So we only found males. We came back 3 weeks later and we saw a lot of tadpoles. So at some point, the river changed its conditions and they came to breed. So that's the hardest part of all this work. Next one, please. This is a small video of the toads laying eggs, but it's not, I think it's not in the lights.
Lights over there.
Can we turn the lights off? So you can see them swimming in the small pond. All these are eggs. Long lines of eggs, and in a small pond of about 1 square meter, you can find a lot of couples and males fighting to catch a female. It's very funny. And we have counted around 40 couples in a single pond. So that's a lot. And they use the rocks from the river to attach the eggs, and that avoids the currents, like taking the eggs out of the pond. Next one, please. So we have collected new founders. We haven't collected adults again because the number of adults is limited and the number of tadpoles is huge. And most tadpoles are predated by ants, snakes, or aquatic invertebrates. So if we collect tadpoles, it's not a big impact for the current populations. And we released 100 toads in another site, which is not very close, but it's within the former distribution of the species. There is a local university, which is Instituto Tecnológico de Zacapuaxtla, and students from that university are doing all the monitoring of the species there. Next one, please. So we're going to talk about the axolotl. There's a lot to say, so I'm going to go very fast. Next one, please. So axolotls have become very popular recently. We have 32 species from the genus Ambystoma, distributed in Mexico, United States, and Canada. In Mexico, we have 18 species, from which 16 are endemic. 9 of them are threatened, and the Mexican axolotl is almost extinct in the wild. Why they are special? Because they are neotenic. They avoid metamorphosis. They remain with the larval morphology during their entire life, and they achieve sexual maturity being larvae. So that's why they are special. This neotenic characteristic can be obligate or facultative. So there are only 4 species that are always neotenic, which is the Mexican axolotl, the axolotl from Pátzcuaro, the axolotl from Zacapu, Both of them are in Michoacán. And the exodus of Alchichica, which is this one, and Bistoma taylori in Puebla, from Puebla. Next one, please. So why did we choose this species to work with? Because it is microendemic from this lake, which is a crater lake. It is an extinct volcano filled with water with very unusual characteristics. It has brackish water with very high pH, with high, I mean 9.5, which is very unusual for amphibians. It is also critical endangered. And when we started working with this species, the population size was like the main questions and the threats for the species. Next one, please. So we started a project with the objective of filling the gaps of knowledge about the species, threats, and trying to involve the local community in conservation actions. Next one, please. So the field methods consisted in minnow traps set in all around the lake in 3 different categories of depth, which are 0 to 10 meters, 11 to 20 meters, and 21 to 30 meters. Luckily, someone made a bathymetric map of Alchichica. So we used this map to place our traps in specific coordinates where we already knew the depth. So it was, I won't say very easy because it was not easy. We had to change the methods several times because we had a lot of problems. We started working with these kind of traps, which were very light, but also very fragile. They broke when they have contact with these rocks, which are stromatolites. We started with a very thin string attached to the traps because the longest string had 30 meters. So we needed something floating on the surface to identify the spot where the trap was. So we had to change a lot of things. We changed the traps, we changed the string, and we added a plastic bottle, which was the best flotation device for the traps and not expensive. And we used inflatable boat to navigate all around the lake and set the traps. We also walked at night along the edge of the lake, and at night it's possible to find the axolotls at very low depths, but it's also very dangerous because we got robbed once, so we stopped going at night. Next one, please. So every axolotl that we catch, we take some measurements with a photo. We use this software ImageJ to avoid stressing the salamander. We take the weight. We take some tissue samples to look for chytrid fungus, and we mark them with visible implants of elastomers, which are fluorescent with UV light. Next one, please. So at the end of the first 2 years, we found 271 individuals, a lot of them in night surveys, but also in traps. However, trapping them is a lot more effort than the night surveys. Almost half of them were males, 30% females, and 18% juveniles. But we only had 2 recaptures, so it was not possible to estimate a population size because the low number of recaptors. Next one, please. We took other interesting data. For example, we know that there are some areas of the lake with aggregated distribution of axolotls. For example, this part and this part of the lake. It seems to be associated with the variation of the depth. For example, here you have very shallow areas, and here the depth varies very quickly. We also found that most axolotls are in deep areas. They like deep areas, but it's not a constant pattern along the year. There are some months, for example, May, which is a very warm month, when axolotls don't like to be below 20 meters. And in cold months or when during the rainy season, they don't like to be in shallow areas. It seems to be related to oxygen concentration in the water. During the coldest season, the oxygen goes to the bottom and it's easy for them to be at deep areas. And during the warm season, the oxygen is in the shallow areas. So it's not easy for them to go to deep areas. Next one, please, because they only breathe oxygen from water. We had a comparison of that because we found some dead animals, and we have someone in the zoo, which is well, she is a veterinarian with a specialization in pathology. So she checks all the animals that dies at the zoo. So we took her some axolotls that we found dead to determine the cause of the death. But the most interesting thing that we found is that compared with other species of the same genus, the axolotl of Alchichica has very small lungs. This is the size of the lung of an axolotl of Alchichica compared to an axolotl of Lerma, which completes metamorphosis. And the axolotls of Alchichica live the whole life in the water. So we had we were worried when we pulled the traps out from 30 meters that they suffer decompression sickness, which is something that the divers suffer when they go up very quickly. But it's not possible because they don't have air in their lungs. So that's something that is good for us or for our method. Next one, please. Regarding the threats, we found that desiccation is a very significant problem in the lake. This is a photograph of Alchichica in the 40s, almost well, more than 80 years ago. And if you compare with a current photo, you don't see the stromatolites. The level of the water was upper, and it has been estimated that the level has decreased in 5 meters, and we measured in 1 year a decrease of 36 centimeters, which is equivalent to 817 millions of liters of water, which is a lot of water. Next one, please. We also found pollution being a big problem. There are some days along the year when a lot of people goes to Alchichica, eat, drink, play, whatever, and they leave a lot of trash. So they transform the lake in a deposit of trash. This is mainly during Holy Week, during the Holy Saturday, that people used to go to wash their bodies and get wet. So they do this. Next one, please. So we started doing some activities with community. One of these activities was like litter clearance campaigns, in which we organized contests within families. So the family which is able to collect more trash, they get free tickets to go to zoo or other prizes. Next one, please. So we identified two needs to protect the lake. One is reduce pollution, and the other one to reduce desiccation. When we started next one working there, we had a very good relationship with the local government. So we presented them the results of our research and some proposals. One of them was establishing a protected area, mainly protected from cars, because you can go with your car and all around the lake. So we proposed them to close some areas to avoid cars going around. So if people have to walk, they would carry a lot of stuff, and that would reduce the amount of trash in the opposite area of the lake where you arrive always. So it would make easier to clean the area that people uses, the touristic area. We proposed them to establish a group of local guardians, like a group of students doing community service, and some education campaigns with local schools, reforestation events, because in the past, the habitat, the ecosystem around used to be forest. It has been transformed by corn or bean plantations. And well, we had the proposal to use this gel, which is called solid drain, to reduce, this is used to reduce the use of water in agriculture. You put the gel in the roots of the plants, and the gel gives water to the plant. But when we started checking costs, it was very expensive, so we decided to use solid rain in the trees that we planted for reforestation, so to help the trees during the dry season, and to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers. Next one, please. So this was the protected area that the government decided to establish. So the cars were not allowed to go to the opposite side of the lake. They established 2 points like this along the border of the lake. Next one, please. This was the first campaign of reforestation that we did. It was in 2017. We planted 3,000 trees with participation of local schools. Around 400 inhabitants participated in this, and we would use the solid rain for the trees. Next one, please. So during Holy Week, we started like a sensibilization campaign with people. We approach to each family and speak 2 minutes about the importance of the lake, why they shouldn't leave their trash, etc. And we gave them plastic bags and asked them to bring the bags with their trash back to us. The first year, which was 2016, we gave 300 bags and we recovered only 10. It was very frustrating. Next year, we had some rewards for children, which were candies, and it worked better. We recovered 25 bags, plastic bags, which was not really good. But next year, we decided to take some rewards for adults, which are plastic bottles with a logo from the zoo and an image of the axolotl. So when we approach the families, we tell them, if you bring us your bag with trash, then you will win this plastic bottle. So we received 110 plastic bags. And the last year when we went, which was before the pandemic, we recovered half of the bags that we gave to people. Then we learned that people work exactly like animals. If you give them a reward, then you receive the behavior that you want from them. Next one, please. The population monitoring from 2017 to 2019. Since we were not able to estimate the population size, we base our monitoring in the capture rate of the salamanders. So our capture rate is between 25 and 30 salamanders. It has remained constant, which gives us a good idea of the population trend. The population seems to be healthy, seems to be stable. However, the habitat is not. Next one, please. So in 2017, we got the Por Amor a Mexico award from Volkswagen. It says 2016, but we received the money in 2017. So we decided to establish a captive colony of axolotls at facilities of Africa. We used the money to build the facilities, to buy equipment, and for all the expenses related to the captive colony. Next one, please. However, when we started doing some research about if someone else had tried in the past, we found out that some zoos from the United States tried to do the same thing in the 20th century without any success. And the main problem was replicating water, salt concentrations in the water. So we hired a company to help us to replicate the water conditions. Next one. However, this company told us that it was not possible. So I had to ask for help to my chemistry professor from the university. And what we came up with was an approach to the water of salchicha, a recipe which is similar, but not the same. So we started doing our water. We collected a small group of axolotls and we brought them to captivity in August 2018. We started monitoring them. They ate really well. They were doing well. So we decided to increase the size of the colony to 35 individuals in October 2018. Next one, please. In the same year, we started doing reforestations, not only in the crater, but in plantations from people that wanted to change the way of production. There's a pine tree which is native from this area, which is a piñón, and it can be an interesting product for agriculture and also for reforestation. So we started getting this species and giving to people which was interested in reforestation. Next one, please. We did our last big litter clearance campaign in January 2019 in collaboration with the community. And every time we did this kind of campaigns, we've got a lot of trash, even wheels from buses, tractors, etc. Next one, please. And in 2019, we got the first breeding event in the history for the species in captivity. We got 4 clutches of around 48 eggs. We observed many interesting information about the development of the species. It takes 17 days to develop inside the eggs. We started feeding them with Artemia and Daphnia, and with a temperature between 15 and 17 degrees. Next one, please. These are photos of the baby axolotls growing. Next one, please. And well, we want to establish a long-term monitoring of the population. There is the idea of increasing the number of trees in the surrounding area of the lake, continue with the clearance campaigns. Alchichica has been declared a protected area by the government of Puebla. So there's a good hope that the situation of the lakes improves. We are waiting, now we're on like a standby because they want to establish ecotouristic projects with more regulations in Alchichica, and we will be in charge of all the research parts with the axolotl. Next one, please. So it seems that we will have enough time to talk about the Quetzal and salamander. Next one, please. Well, Quetzal and salamander is endemic to the North Sierra of Puebla. It also inhabits cloud forests, and as I told you before, is the most threatened terrestrial habitat in Mexico. One of the threats is deforestation. Why people cut down the trees? Because they use the wood for fire, for building their houses. And also, in recent years, our national government came up with a program called Sembrando Vida. Does anyone know Sembrando Vida? No?
I know that it's very problematic.
Well, the original purpose of the program didn't sound really bad because they were aiming to give money to people with grasslands or abandoned lands to establish plantations or of native trees or fruit trees. However, in this place, abandoned land is forest. So people started cutting down the forest to receive the money and start planting other things. So the forest is endangered now because of this Sembrando Vida program. This is the current distribution of the salamander. As you can see, it's also very narrow distribution. Next one, please. So we started a project in 2020, just after the pandemic. Well, not after the pandemic, but after the pandemic started. We were aiming to look for viable populations in the remnant patches of forest to see if we were able to find like the smallest area necessary to establish a viable population of the species and establish a private reserve to protect it, because this species was not in any protected area in Mexico. Next one, please. So we started with some sites that we knew previously. This is an ecotouristic site. It's very small. It has only 2 hectares and it has cabins inside. But this place was our inspiration for this project because it's very easy to find the salamanders there. You go out at night and you can count 30 salamanders in one night, which is crazy. So this motivated us to explore the idea of establishing a protected area for the salamander, or perhaps 2 hectares was enough to maintain a viable populations of the species. We wanted to know that. So the other place was the rift where we worked with the toad, and we found another site, which was a private property, and the owner was intending to sell it. So we spoke to him, we told him, well, we could potentially buy it if we find the salamanders, and we get the funds. So if you allow us to work there, then we could buy it in the future. So he gave us the permission to work in his property, and we did a population study here. Next one, please. Our method consists in night surveys between 8 and 1 in the morning. Every salamander that we find, we collect it in Ziploc bags, and we put inside some humid leaf litter. We mark every site where we find a salamander using flagging tape, and we mark also the site on the GPS. Every animal is, from every animal, we take a dorsal picture to measure the body size. We take some tissue samples, which can be from the tail. They have tail regeneration, so it doesn't really damage the animals. And we also take swabs from the mouth of the animals. All the animals are released immediately after being processed. I won't say this is not stressful, but we won't kill the animals. And when we did the tissue, the tail clipping, we used it for a mark recapture study. And we were able to estimate the population in the 3 sites that we were with this method. Next one, please. So in the Barranca Chocoyolo, the reef where we work with the toads, we only found 4 individuals, which was a really low number. There's a high deforestation here because of Sembrando Vida, and there was a recent fire in 2019 that we think affected the abundance of salamanders. We found, we estimated 225 salamanders in the 2 hectares of the cabins that inspired us, which seemed to be a pretty good number. And we found 1,050 salamanders in the private property. And this motivated us to get the funding to purchase this property. Next one. So we got more funding to continue with the project and go further. I don't know if you have heard about Edge of Existence. Edge of Existence is the same program that funded initially the project of the axolotl. Edge is like a different classification of endangered species because they not only base the ranking on the degree of threat of a species, they also use or take in account the evolutionary history of the species. So Edge means evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered. So Quetzalan salamander and the axolotl Omphalchichica are both species with a long evolutionary history, which makes them not only important because the category of threat, but because the amount of evolutionary history that would be lost if they go extinct. So Edge gives funding to people who develops conservation or research projects with Edge species. So we got funding from Edge to assess the effect of habitat degradation due to agriculture or livestock or Sembrando Vida. And we did a population where we are in process of doing a population health status. We are looking for the chytrid fungus in the species, work with local stakeholders in education campaigns directed to the salamanders, and we increase the number of localities that we have in the former project. Next one, please. So we started working in 4 localities. We had 2 sites in Chocoyolo, Acopizacta, and Cohuatichen. Our methods are slightly different because we use plots to count the salamanders. It's not 10 per centimeters plots separated by 50 meters each one. In each plot, we count the salamanders during 3 consecutive nights without grabbing them, without disturbing them, to avoid the effects of our disturbance in the observation of the salamanders. We take some habitat data such as canopy cover, temperature, humidity, soil, vegetation, number of trees with a diameter larger than 50 centimeters. And we also take some tissue samples. Next one, please. So we have some preliminary results, which are only salamander counts. So in Coahuatichan, we have found salamanders only in primary forests. In the other habitats, it's not possible to find Quetzalan salamanders. This place, Tacopisacta, is a very disturbed place where the forest is reduced to small patches and salamanders are distributed almost everywhere, but in very low abundance. Villas Quetzalan is a private reserve used for tourists. They rent some cabins and they offer tours inside the reserve. This place has different habitats. So here we have the best comparison between primary forests, secondary forests, and coffee plantations. Grasslands, you won't see grasslands here because salamanders are not in grasslands. And Vista Hermosa is the rift where we work with the toads, and we found more salamanders in primary forest, but not as abundant as in Villas Quetzalan or in Coahuatichan. Next one, please. So we were able to create the protected area that we wanted to create for Quetzalan salamander. It was necessary to fund an NGO for this purpose, which is called Conservación de Anfibios. We got funding from World Trust, which is an organization based in the UK, and they give funding to establish protected areas for endangered species or endangered habitats. So they gave us the funding to establish the protected area. Next one, please. This is where the reserve is located. We are very close to Quetzalan. Quetzalan is a touristic place. It's only 15 minutes from Quetzalan to the reserve. And luckily, we don't have vehicle access, so you can only reach the reserve walking. Next one, please. We have 15 species of amphibians inside the reserve, 10 frozen toads. The most important is the large crested toads because it's endangered, and 5 salamanders, from which 4 are endemic to the North Sierra of Puebla. And from them, 2 haven't been described yet, which are Achilorhizia sp, which is this one, this black salamander, and Chiropterotriton, which is this one. This one is Quetzalan salamander. So this is a very interesting place in terms of biodiversity also. Next one, please. Some management actions that we have developed is installing some signage along the trail. There are 2 trails inside the reserve, and we established signage because the main trail of the reserve is, they call it locally Camino Real because it connects 2 different towns. And some people still walk between those towns and they can walk inside the reserve. So this signage is directed to these people so they know what they can do and they cannot do. Next one, please. We established some camera traps, well, only 3 camera traps to start monitoring the mammal diversity. Next one, please. Can you click on the video, please? This is a short video of a raccoon. This is one of the species that we have recorded in the reserve. Next one, please. Next. Anterior, yes. Previous one. This one. This is a margay, or tigrillo in Spanish, which is a very good indicator of the good conservation status of the forest, the reserve. They are not present in disturbed areas. So when we found this guy, was like, we made a pie. We were very happy. Next. This is Jaguarundi, another cat, another wild cat that is only present in well-preserved forests. Next one, please. Orchids are also very endangered in Quetzalan because they are collected from people and sold to the tourists. So when it rains a lot, you can find orchids falling on the ground. So we rescue them and we establish what we call an orchid garden, which is not anything else than some bamboo branches with the orchids hanging there. So we give them another chance of living. Next one, please. Last year, we had a group of students doing their professional practice in the reserve. One of them made the list of butterflies. He recorded 34 species between September and December. Next one, please. Another student did the bird species list, and he recorded 41 species, which is also a good number. Next one, please. We are now, we have two rangers working on the reserve. One of them is a biologist, a local biologist, and he worked his thesis with tree ferns. So he knows all about tree ferns. So he first did the list of tree ferns in the reserve. We have 30% of all Mexican species of tree ferns in the reserve. Are all these names? Next one, please. And now he's doing a census of tree ferns. So he has only reached 15% of the total surface of the reserve, and he has counted 385 tree ferns, which is a lot. So this will be the first census of tree ferns in a patch of cloud forest. And of course, you can see some species are very predominant, such as this one. So we will see what we have at the end of this census. Next one, please. And some landscapes, so you can fall in love and visit us. Next one. We have a waterfall inside. You can swim here. It's very nice place. Next one, please. And also other part of the biodiversity. We are not expert on this, but we hopefully will start doing some research on fungus, for example, or lichens. Next one, please. This is a lichen. We already know the name, but I forgot it. Next one, please. Some insects. Insects are another interesting group. This year we started another project with salamanders from the canopy. So we are translocating bromeliads to 1.5 meters. So we are able to check them. And we have done only one survey, and we found a lot of insects in the bromeliads. So next survey, which is tomorrow, we will start collecting insects to have a list of insect species from the reserve. Next one, please. Well, this is an arachnid, a very interesting one. It's an opilion. Next one, please. Next, of course. Next one, please. Well, there's a lot of people who has participated in this. The first donation that we had was through Donadora, a donation campaign that allowed us to get 20,000 pesos, which is not a lot, but this helped us establish the NGO, hire an accountant because taxes are something very important with this. We have the Foundation for the Conservation of Salamanders, which also gave us $1,000 to start the project. And finally, World Trust, that funded all the rest of the research. Next one. And that's it. We have some time for questions.
How did you keep track of the released toads?
Well, we only keep track of the toads that we released. All of them are marked. We mark them through toe clipping, which cuts the tip of one toad That's how we recognize them.
So the low number of captures of the Amphibian indicates a population size.
Yeah, it could be an indicator of the population size. It can also be an indicator of that the mark can be lost because the BIE mark is not perfect. There has been records of the mark being lost because the animals just like the mark like comes out from the body. It can be that also. But we think there is a good population still.
The last one is, did you get to buy the property of the guy for the salamander?
Sorry?
Did you get to buy the property?
Yeah, we already bought the property.
So you mentioned also with the Anchichica Axolotl that a lot of your efforts were for reforestation. So how would reforestation of that area benefit the population of axolotls in the lake?
Well, that is intended to be like a long-term result. We hope that having more forest coverage attracts more rain because one of the problems is the low rainfall in the area. So desiccation rate is higher than rainfall there. That's part of the reason why the lake is desiccating. And the other reason is that local population extracts water from the underground, which is the water that keeps the lake alive.
And do you think the reforestation efforts would be enough to like compensate for all the water that is being extracted?
No, it will not be, of course. That's why we have our hope in new regulations that stop some big sources of water extraction, such as big farms.
I have more questions.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned in the conservation area that you created for the Italian salamander, you mentioned that you found Tigrillo and Jaguar. Have you thought about integrating them into the conservation area, maybe with people that are experts in mammals? Because they are also very sensitive species that are not normally found in such pristine conditions. So have you thought about integrating them into the area for their conservation as well?
Yes, we are now in the process, in the stage of recording all the biodiversity inside the reserve. And also we have the intention to increase the size of the reserve because there are some patches of forests in surrounding area that could potentially buy, and also some grasslands that we could potentially buy and restore. So we are in those processes.
One final question. According to your preliminary results, it looked like the Italian salamanders are kind of dependent on primary forest. Why is this? How does the primary forest benefit the salamanders?
It's mainly because the tree coverage keeps moisture conditions in the ground. They are longless salamanders. So to breathe, in order to breathe those things, they need high moisture, low temperature. And those conditions are provided by the southern coast.
So how can we get in touch with you for your organization or further maybe collaboration?
Well, you can find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, such as Conservación de Anfibios AC. I will leave some posters that we have as part of as a sensibilization campaign, and there is my contact. And also Javier has my phone, my email.
I'm guessing you will be part of the effort for people to involve other specialties such as mycologists and biologists.
Well, we have some first approaches inviting universities to do like field practices on different subjects. So we had a visit of an ecology group last year, and they found the first record of some tiny fungus that I don't remember the name for the state of Puebla. So they want to come back, and all the data they are taking, they give us back to us. And that's one way. And we also invite people to do theses, whatever they you want to do there, we are open.
That includes like social service and
Yes.
internships.
Because we have a
Right.
non-governmental.
Yeah, NDO. So there you go, guys. You're looking for something still? Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot for your time, Professor. I think it was a very interesting topic and most of us enjoyed. From the STEM committee and from the school, wanted you to give you a little person,
Thank you.
as well as your certificate of your coming.
Thank you.